You may be wondering why I'm standing directly under a massive branch that's hanging on by just a thread. It's to give a flavor of how Don Bosco felt every single day of his life, because he had multiple swords of Damocles hanging over his oratory school for boys. There were so many obstacles to its fruition. Masonic anti-Catholic city officials who barred funds, causing constant money problems. Clerics who left his Salesian order for no reason at all, and a hostile Archbishop who undermined his work. His great love of God helped him to navigate these trials and tribulations, as we'll learn in today's episode. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In 1876, Don Bosco wrote to Father Caballero in Argentina, "Finances depleted. This missionary expedition to South America has sunk us up to our necks in debt." Nevertheless, the worrisome financial situation did not depress him. "God helps us," he added. Don Bosco's concern for young people never slackened through all this, regardless of the time of year. For several years, he ran elementary summer courses for the boys. The youngsters flocked to these courses in large numbers, and there were more than 600 in 1876. In a teeming city like Turin, this was a real godsend for families who couldn't keep their sons off the streets. Above all, it was a blessing for the boys themselves, an excellent season for catching many little fish who never went to confession. Most of them, when asked about the time of their last confession, would reply, Easter. Without these classes, they would never have thought of receiving the sacraments until the following Easter. So Don Bosco kept up this vacation school. Usually the city of Turin gave him a grant for this, but it failed to do so in 1876. Although he invited the city officials to see the school, they didn't respond. Anxious to know the reason for this strange refusal, Don Bosco called on the mayor and at the right moment told him, "We do all we can to meet this positive need of our city, but expenses are far too high for any private citizen to afford. With any assistance you might be able to grant, I'm willing to make this sacrifice." The mayor was too embarrassed to reply, and on being pressed by Don Bosco, suggested that he see Count Riccardi, to whom his request had been forwarded. "Shall I tell him you sent me to him?" Don Bosco asked. "Yes, if you wish. He has an official answer to give you." "Can anyone escort me to assure the Count that I was sent by the proper authority?" "Whom would you like?" "A personal aide will do." The mayor agreed. On arriving at the Count's office, Don Bosco found him engaged in a meeting, but when summoned, the Count excused himself and momentarily left the conference. "I was sent expressly by the mayor, who had his aide accompany me," Don Bosco said. "I have come to get a reply to a petition I have repeatedly made to you that you kindly come to visit our summer school and grant us a subsidy." "Well," the Count hemmed and hawed, "I have a meeting now. I really couldn't. Just come again, or better still, write." "I've written enough letters and have had no reply, and I don't intend to come back again. The mayor sent me for an answer, since this is your responsibility." "Well, just now I can't." "I need only a few words. Just tell me the reason so that I'll know how to act in regard to this city government. I have other business, but I need to know if this is a gesture of mistrust in me or if there's some other reason." "Well, since you want to know, I'll tell you bluntly and briefly. You are a Catholic priest. Most of us at City Hall are Freemasons. Now you know." "Indeed I do. I knew it already, but I wanted to hear it officially. This will help to guide me. Still, I'm astonished that this city government, to a large extent Catholic, which administers the money of a Catholic population, discriminates against Catholics while favoring Waldensians and Jews with subsidies." The Waldensians were a heretical sect who had tried to kill him for his dogmatic writings multiple times. Keep in mind, too, that our saint loved the Jews and converted hundreds of them to the Catholic faith in his lifetime. City Hall didn't openly oppose the Oratory and always let it operate, but never granted it whatever it could legally refuse. However, it was due to Don Bosco's expert tact that open confrontation never occurred. For 3 years, Don Bosco harbored a keen desire to have Archbishop Gastaldi come to confirm the Oratory boys. Some weeks before the Assumption, he renewed his request. The Archbishop seemed willing to accept, but he kept postponing the date until he finally sent a refusal. Since he couldn't have Archbishop Gastaldi at the Oratory to confirm the day students, Don Bosco sent them to the Archbishop's residence. It pained him to be so misunderstood. Father Anthony Balacio, a zealous missionary priest, had an interview with the Archbishop to figure out the reason for his strange hostility towards St. John Bosco. The Archbishop felt that Don Bosco didn't adequately respect his authority and feared that he, who had been appointed by the Lord to govern his church, would appear subservient to Don Bosco's will. When Father Balacio told Don Bosco of this, the saint felt deeply hurt. How can such doubts possibly arise between people who seek only God's glory? He asked. No, I would never do anything to upset either the diocese or my Archbishop. Ah, my dear Father Balacio, if someone, maybe you yourself, could somehow make it possible for me to live in perfect harmony with my Archbishop, he knows how much I love him, as I do with the other bishops, I would bless the Lord forever. Father Balacio notified Archbishop Gastaldi of his visit to Don Bosco and of their conversation, but the Archbishop's reply was not the one they were hoping for. Through all this, there were a number of Salesian clerics that left him, men who were indispensable in his apostolate. Though he cared for their every need, they responded with desertion. It was the mystery of iniquity. They either became diocesan priests, joined other orders, or gave up the religious life altogether. He had a vision about this, which he related to Father Barbaries in a letter. He wrote, "Now I want to tell you a dream, or whatever else it could be, that filled my mind on the night of St. Anne's feast. I saw a shepherd who toiled to pasture his sheep and safeguard them from harm. For a whole year he labored by the sweat of his brow, and he was very pleased with his efforts, for his sheep put on weight, their wool hung in folds, and they gave plenty of milk. He set a date for shearing and invited his friends. The good shepherd went to his fold early in the day and saw that several sheep were missing. Where could they all have gone, he wondered. He was told that a man had come along with the offer of greener pastures, and those he deceived went along with him. Nothing else was known. Poor me, groaned the anguished shepherd. I have worked and sweated for those sheep and counted on the wool and cheese they would yield. Now I see that I have labored in vain. No, replied all the other sheep. Some sheep deprived you of their wool, but we will repay you not only with our wool, but with our entire hide. The shepherd regained his composure and bestowed 1,000 caresses on the sheep which had faithfully remained in the fold, not succumbing to the deceitful allurements. Thus ended his vision. The hand of divine providence was evident in a steady flow of new personnel. At the beginning of November, 23 brothers, clerics, and priests left for the missions, and exactly as many priests, clerics, and brothers sought admission to the congregation. Singularly providential, too, was the following incident. Don Bosco had opened verbal negotiations with Rome for certain dispensations on behalf of the society. The need for them was truly urgent. One day, he sat at his desk and spent a considerable amount of time in drafting a letter to Pope Pius IX. Since certain tasks had been entrusted to him, he asked, would the Holy Father grant him what he needed to carry out his wishes? On the morning of November 19th, he folded the sheet and slipped it into an envelope, ready to be mailed, when a letter arrived from the Pope. It answered each and every question he had just posed in the letter he was about to mail and granted his petitions from first to last. This is truly an act of providence, Don Bosco exclaimed. The Pope really lives in a higher, miraculous world. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you'd like to hear of the time that Masonic boys invaded Don Bosco's school, just click on the video above me here. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.